value from success, growth in discovery. Golden Arrow Resources is a well-funded gold-copper exploration company with proven management and prospective properties in Chile, Argentina, and Paraguay. Golden Arrow trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange, symbol GRG, on Frankfurt, symbol G6A, and the OTCQB, symbol GARWF. For more information, visit us at goldenarrowresources.com or call Sean at 778-686-0135.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is market historian Bob Hoye. He's the chief investment strategist for chartsandmarkets.com. Welcome back to the show, Bob, and best of the season.
Well, here we are, Friday in the lovely winter and then Christmas season. I always enjoy it. It's nice.
If you love constant rain, you'll love Christmas in Vancouver.
If we live somewhere else, it might be constant snow. So
exactly, as we always say in Vancouver, you don't have to shovel rain.
Yep.
Bob, we'll start off our show with listener questions. Our first one is from Kathleen, who usually has an interesting way of putting things, and I think this one fits this. We should be playing some music in the background. Hi, Jim and Bob. I have a question. It looks like we're experiencing a blow-off top in equities, and I'm waiting for that black swan to show up. I think it hit in March. This market bubble reminds me of a carnival game where kids try to pop the balloon with a pop gun. As I read the tap this morning...
That should be tape.
Oh, the tape? Okay.
Yeah.
As I read the tape this morning, that Rolling Stones song, Gimme Shelter, starts playing in my mind, particularly the lyrics... Ooh, a storm is threatening my very life today. If I don't get some shelter, oh yeah, I'm gonna fade away. I love that song, by the way. Bob.
Oh, I've got time for the Stones. I always have.
Bob, is the market top just a shot away, as they say in the song? And if so, how do we find shelter so that our portfolios don't fade away?
Kathleen, you should write stuff for us. You're good. Yeah, it is wild. Now, the term black swan is interesting because that implies that a catastrophe is kind of unpredictable, thus and rarely happen. Thus, they're a black swan. But no, on this one, there's really quite a lot of method to it, and once we sort of got it past October, it looked like the seasonal pressures on the market would ease, and in which case we look for the next natural high, which would be turn-of-the-year stuff somewhere in December or January. And what you need for this to work is to have enthusiasm going into the period, which we have. The technicals are measurable, and we're getting terrific indications. Let's call it this way. The speculation is becoming measurable. So, now, here's the timing. Somewhere in December into January, and previous examples have included the fabulous Nikkei Tokyo bubble that ended on the last trading day of 1989. You had the incredible speculation in gold and silver that ended on January 21st, 1980. And even a while ago, I found one in December of 1893. That's the earliest I was able to find. So on this one, Kathleen, we asked the question, is the market up at the right time? Yeah. Are there signs of speculation? Yes. So it will conclude somewhere, and this part you can't really nail down, somewhere over the next 4 or 5 weeks. So enjoy.
We have 2 questions from Michael. Michael writes, I have 2 questions for Bob. Pearl Harbor Day came and went this year. That's December 7th for people who don't know their history. without anyone noticing. Instead, everyone seems to be caught up in this vaccine-induced market euphoria. The only mention of Pearl Harbor this year seems to be in regard to the sinking U.S. dollar. The short sellers are torpedoing the U.S. dollar with record shorts. Bob, is the U.S. dollar about to capsize?
Oh, yeah.
And I should remind people that, except for the Arizona, all the other battleships that were sunk were refloated and used again in the war. So maybe like the U.S. dollar, it can be revived.
Hey, what a good point. Yeah. The U.S. is suffering a constitutional crisis unseen since the Civil War in the 1860s and the American Revolution that resulted in a wonderful constitution. The politics are crazy, so there are no fundamentals out there. And with this, the implied valuation for the U.S. dollar is getting bashed. But also, there is a seasonal move in the dollar where you can get weakness through December. So we've got that. We're also, against it, you have terrific speculation going on in the financial markets. And in the small caps, the Russell 2000 has been terrific. But all these, as I mentioned on the last question, are becoming measurably excessive. So the dollar somewhere in the next few weeks can stabilize, build a base, and then rally as the speculation in the financial markets begins to deflate. Yep, good question, too.
Our second question from Michael. I understand this is the seasonal period to begin to add to our precious metals positions. If the dollar, now at multi-year lows, suddenly reverses from here, then will it delay the seasonal advance in the precious metals sector? Can you see a situation where everything sells off in January as it did in January 2018?
That's a good point, Michael. Yeah. The entry on this is going to be difficult. It always is, and this again is where good technical tools really help out. And I remember a while ago we were talking about old days on the Vancouver Stock Exchange, and you had your list of 5 junior stocks made in December, and then you bought down into between Christmas and New Year's when the promoters were not promoting. And then you look for seasonal activity out to the summer. So who knows? One has to play each of these, and I really do like exploration juniors. You have to play each one individually, but I think you can still use our research, our technical stuff, to assist in getting positioned in here. And then overall, of course, our main theme is that we are in a multi-year bull market for gold, and that one should buy the dips, but sometimes the dips can be severe, and this is where technical analysis really helps out. Thanks for the question, Michael.
We have a question from Justin Lee. Bob, from what I understand, the grandfather of the central banking heist is John Law, who, quote, saved, unquote, France's debt issues by using paper money. I would love to hear Bob's Reader's Digest summary of this. A Scotsman running a central bank in France? What could go wrong?
Justin, thanks. Yeah. John Law was one of these brilliant guys in numbers and cards and gambling, and he had to leave England because he got involved in a duel and was exiled, I think, or got away from the law, so he ended up in France and had his theory of that a paper currency issue could be superior to a coinage-based financial market. So he got his Banque de France, or whatever he called it, the Banque Royale or whatever, and then he got royal acknowledgement of it, and the game started. For a while, he really did have people believing in his paper money. And in France, it was their focal issue was the Mississippi Company, that had huge rights to explore in the Mississippi region in Louisiana, whereas England, it was the South Sea Company that had special rights to explore and whatever else. So, but they both were fabulous. Well, that was the first great financial bubble, and although it was the new and first, everybody seemed to know what to do, and it provides instruction for today, because in Paris, law had something like 8 printing presses going, printing currency, banknotes. And that was all part of the bubble. And then the stock market bubble crashed, no matter how active the printing presses were. And then eventually in the disaster, he had to show the public in a public square that the plates from the printing presses were being destroyed and burned. And then, as it got worse, he was lucky to get out of France with his life. Now, the other half of this story is in the South Sea bubble in England, which was on a metallic standard, gold, silver standard, and basically gold. And with usury laws, the Bank of England could not lend money at above a certain rate, maybe 5.5%. So there was no printing press in London issuing banknotes used to bid up stock prices, but it was all done on credit. And again, the same thing. The speculation reached an excess. The government did everything it could to prevent the contraction. And the stock, which had soared from 120 pounds in about, just off of memory, 9 months, up to 1,000 pounds, it was all the way back down to sort of 120 pounds by the end of the year. Classic bubble. So, but very instructive today, because many analysts are considering that the reckless ease by the Fed is now going to pump inflation into the scheme. No, they tried it in 1720 in France, and even with printing presses running like crazy, the whole thing collapsed. So, good question. Thanks very much.
The U.S. Treasury is printing money like crazy. Could the same thing happen there?
Well, the Treasury is, you can't call it printing press money. They're issuing credit. And in 1929, when it started to go wrong, the New York Fed stepped into the markets and bought bonds out of the market, issuing all kinds of liquidity. The New York Fed exceeded its lending authority by a factor of 6 times, and was remarkably easy. Now, the corruption in economic thought is incredible, because too many economists assume that the Fed is the perfect instrument. And then when it wasn't perfect in the early 1930s, they then said that the Fed made a policy error. And in order to do that, they ignore or cover up that the Fed was remarkably easy all during the contraction. And indeed, in 1932, Barron's editorialized that every anti-deflationary measure taken by the Federal Reserve System is seen not to work. And also, I'm not quoting it accurately, but within that editorial, they noted that the anti-deflationary measure was buying bonds out of the market. So that was as late as 1932. So what the markets tell you is that when a contraction is on, no matter how hard an important central bank tries to reflate, doesn't happen. And I think once this thing rolls over, the same thing will happen, that you'll go into a contraction. So good questions today, gang.
We'll have more from Bob Hoye, including a tale from the trading floor, coming up.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines. Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Bob Hoye. Bob, IPO mania sweeps over Robinhood crowd, stoking a 111% rally. What's the story there?
Yeah, that was Robinhood, the trading agency. And what happened is that with the COVID, many people stayed home, and then all of a sudden they were then getting checks, so they discovered speculating in the market. It became day traders. So you've had new accounts being opened like crazy, and you've had new issues of stocks. They call them initial public offerings, which is a terrible bureaucratic word. And you've got all this going on, which is, I think it's the most intense on new issues, new accounts, and new brokers since the late 1960s. So, and somehow this Robinhood trading agency is key on it. It's facilitating huge speculation. Back in the old days in the Vancouver Stock Exchange, a number of the smaller brokers, they kept ground floor offices so that people could walk in, and they'd had a customer's room where people would sit, and they had a big board up with guys with chalk changing the quotes on some of the key leading stocks. So, and this, of course, what happens now with this Robinhood, you don't have to go to the customer's room. All you need is a computer. So, but it is the same thing. Terrific speculation with new players.
We'll have more with Bob Hoye and a story from the trading floor right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlan, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Bob Hoye. Bob, a headline that caught your attention: small caps are now leading the charge in the stock market. What's the story there? And is there a warning when the Russell 2000 starts to lead the way?
Yeah. Oh, Russell 2000 is the index for small caps. And when small caps are running, it means that small traders are in the market. So this, again, is part of it. And there's a seasonality to small caps. They can really outperform from mid-December into early January. So not only, if you're in a rising market, the small caps can outperform into the turn of the year, which they are. So soon on this one, we expect to be getting some definitive technical signals, and people should get in touch with us.
Also, Bob, we have a regulator in Massachusetts who claims that Robinhood has aggressively marketed to rookie investors. And Danielle Park also mentioned that the people think they're trading for free, but all their data is being sold by Robinhood, and perhaps they'll pay a high price for it later on.
Ooh, yeah. Again, the action is getting so hot that regulators are looking at it. Now, regulators don't have any ability to stop excessive speculation, but what happens there is it becomes exhausted and then fails. So, again, another headline showing that inexperienced investors are really participating in this market. So,
and we also have a story that is very interesting from the old trading days in Vancouver. Howe Street, I think, was referred to as the Wild West once by the Wall Street Journal. So the old trading days in Howe Street have some interesting tales, and you have one of them.
Yeah, I actually knew this guy. we'll call him Jimmy without the last name, and that was the late 60s, and he was an enforcer collector for loan sharking that was going on back in the day. So you could borrow $5,000 for a week if you were desperate and pay it back with $6,000 the next week. So anyways, he was a good-looking guy, athletically built, and was an enforcer. But then and dealing with very difficult people. So a friend of mine was with one of the good brokerage firms downtown, and he was having breakfast in the Georgia Hotel in their lovely garden room, and one morning, maybe around 9 o'clock, and this guy, Jimmy, was at another table with somebody else, and they got into a violent argument. The guy left, come back 5 minutes later with a revolver and blasted 3 shots into, let's call him Jimmy. And my friend Brad was sitting there stunned, and he just sort of stayed, and then police arrived, and one senior detective in plainclothes was there and was urging Brad to leave, and Brad says, no, he says, I'm waiting for my Eggs Benedict. They're really good here. So the detective in plainclothes says, well, what do you do? And Brad says, I'm a stockbroker. And the detective says, I don't know anything about that. I haven't served in the fraud squad. So anyway, so on the poor Jimmy who is shot, things happened very quickly. Somebody shouted down to the lobby. There was a doorman, and there was a ambulance going by right there. So flagged the ambulance in, got Jimmy into it. And then it was only a couple of blocks to St. Paul's Hospital where they got in there. And when there was a top surgeon already dressed for a regular surgery and looked after him. So anyways, Hill survived. But then about 5 years ago, I was having lunch with friends down at El Giordano's garden outdoors. It was a nice summer day. And somebody said, whatever happened to Jimmy? And the other says, I heard a story about him. He says he's now 80, and the other Friday night he was at Hoye's and coming out, and, with lovely evening and all sorts of people on the sidewalks, and he jostled some young guy, and the young guy, feeling a bit belligerent, said to him, watch where you're going, old-timer. And Jimmy looked him up and down, and then with the left and the right to the chin, decked him. The young guy fell to the sidewalk, and Jimmy, at age 80, just quietly strolled away. So there is a character from the years ago in and around the Vancouver Stock Exchange.
Bob, always fun chatting with you.
And we'll do it next week.
My guest has been market historian Bob Hoye, the chief investment strategist for chartsandmarkets.com. If you have any questions for Bob and he loves to answer them, you can send them to info@howestreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.